how to manipulate hormones in perimenopause and menopause to help you burn fat better. So if you are eating less and you are working out harder and you're doing all of the right things and fat loss still isn't happening, this episode is for you. And so the goal is very simple here. It's let's manipulate those hormonal signals that your body is receiving, that it goes, let's burn fat. Let's take the food that we're eating and turning it into energy instead of storing it as fat. Once we manipulate the signals, your hormones will respond appropriately and fat loss becomes possible again. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness coaching company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many symptoms in this time of your life, whether it's the hot flashes and night sweats, irritability and brain fog, or weight gain in the middle that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet it feels like nothing is working. In fact, it feels like you're moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different. And that's why at Vitality, it is our mission to help women understand how their body changes in this time of their life, so they can reach those health and fitness goals, feel in control and at home in their body again, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So today we are tackling a really awesome topic, which is how to manipulate hormones in perimenopause and menopause to help you burn fat better. And so let's get something organized right away, cleared up straight away, is that hormones can absolutely be manipulated, not in a reckless way, not in a shortcut kind of way, but in a physiological, strategic, and smart way, because your hormones are always responding to input. So the hormones aren't the problem. It's why are your hormones responding in a specific way. And in perimenopause and menopause, those inputs are going to matter much more than ever before. This is why you could get away with doing things before, why the past diets worked, and now they don't. So if you are eating less and you are working out harder and you're doing all of the right things and you're cooking at home and getting those veggies in and fat loss still isn't happening, this episode is for you. And so I'm going to show you exactly how we can manipulate your hormones to signal fat burning instead of fat storage. And not by forcing your body, but by changing the environment the hormones are in and responding to. And so that we can actually see changes, because in perimenopause and menopause, fat loss is rarely ever about calories alone. Because every fat loss program is going to treat fat loss as an equation. Calories in, calories out. Eat less, move more. But the math just doesn't add up anymore. It's all about what is your body using those calories for? How is it deciding, is it burning fat? Is it storing fat? Because that's going to make a massive difference. And so we want to look at both our fat burning pathways, which when that's opened up, obviously we lose weight. We are able to build strength. We have more energy. We clean up dead cells. Disease risk decreases. We feel great. When we are stuck in like a fat and storage pathway, what we see is more inflammation, more insulin resistance. We're exhausted despite resting and eating. And so what happens is it creates this system, this body, this environment that's perfect for breeding diseases like cardiovascular disease, certain kinds of cancers, diabetes. And hormones are going to largely influence which pathway wins, the fat storage pathway or the fat burning pathway. And so the goal is very simple here. It's let's manipulate those hormonal signals that your body is receiving, that it goes, let's burn fat. Let's take the food that we're eating and turning it into energy instead of storing it as fat. And so we're going to touch on 5 major ones here. And so the first one, the master switch who controls literally everything in your body, is going to be cortisol. And I know cortisol has been very trendy. It's been all over social media, all the things, right? And cortisol is not necessarily a bad thing. We do need it just in the right amounts at the right time of day, because cortisol is going to largely influence our blood sugar, our insulin response, so how good our body is at taking sugar and taking it out of our bloodstream and taking it to either store it as fat or for our body to use as energy. Thyroid conversion, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here. Progesterone production, which we know decreases first during perimenopause. And also influence where fat is stored. If cortisol is high when it's not supposed to be, or it's chronically elevated for years, we're going to see excess body fat specifically around your belly. And so when cortisol is high, or our body can't break it down well, which is what we see on Dutch testing. So it's not just how much you are producing, it's can your body break it down and get rid of it. And so if it is high, or the bathtub is overflowing, it's clogged, we can't get rid of the excess cortisol, our fat burning pathway gets blocked. So our body is told we have enough, let's store, despite the fact that you're eating less, you're moving more, you're eating clean, you're doing all the right things. Our insulin is going to stay elevated because cortisol is constantly telling your body we need energy to meet the demands because we're stressed from under eating, over exercising, fasting, being go, 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 checking our email the second that we wake up, chugging coffee, living off of protein bars, having a sad little salad for lunch, avoiding carbohydrates. We're also trying to be a good wife, a good mom, a good daughter, taking care of sick parents. We're dealing with some grief, some trauma, deadlines at work, finances, dog pooped on the floor, you name it, right? Our body goes, oh my gosh, we need energy to meet all the demands. And so every time you're on, cortisol goes up if we aren't eating adequately, which most of us unfortunately are not. And so what happens is your body goes, I need energy, and dumps sugar into your bloodstream when cortisol goes up. And when that happens, your insulin is going to stay elevated, and that's going to push you into that storage pathway as well. Your thyroid output slows down and the conversion slows down, and your reverse T3 goes up. And so this is really important because T3 is the thyroid hormone that is like a key, and it goes into the lock and turns on fat burning. It tells your body we can burn calories, so that if you have more T3 and your body can utilize it, your body is good at burning calories, taking food and turning it for energy. Fantastic. If T3 is low, not so great. Our calories being burned decreases, which is obviously going to make weight loss easy, weight loss harder, and weight gain a lot easier. Then we also have something that goes up called reverse T3, which quite literally blocks your T3 from going into the lock and turning it. So it's almost like a cover on top of that lock that you cannot open, which is, again, you could have adequate T3, but if that reverse T3 goes up because cortisol is high, we literally cannot put the key to turn on fat burning. And all of that is going to then make it so that we're accumulating belly fat. And not to mention in perimenopause and menopause, cortisol goes up a lot easier. Before you could handle a 9 out of 10 on the stress scale, now it's only a 5 out of 10. This is where women say, oh my gosh, I have been doing all of these things and all of a sudden I just started gaining weight. I haven't changed anything to my life. I haven't changed how I eat, how I exercise, nothing. In fact, I might have been working harder and all of a sudden I'm gaining weight. What the heck? And it's because internally things have changed and now your body views it as a stress. It's almost like you have these little guards in your body that are supposed to like shoot down any like threats in the air that are potentially threatening for you, but it sees a butterfly and starts shooting. That's basically what happens. It overreacts. And when this happens, belly fat increases, inflammation goes up, hormone production goes down, blood sugar starts to get worse, energy gets worse, sleep gets worse. We lose our muscle mass, which slows down metabolism and calorie burn even more. Our liver detoxification slows down. All that increases inflammation, blocks fat burning more. And so cortisol quite literally influences everything in our body. So getting your cortisol under control is step number 1. And so how can we manipulate cortisol to work in our favor, to have it at the right amounts at the right time of day? It's supposed to be higher in the morning and slowly decreases as the day goes on. We love Dutch testing because it shows you your cortisol throughout the day. If I would have had my cortisol tested in blood work, it would have told me I was quote unquote normal. When I had my Dutch testing, yeah, it was normal in the morning, but she never went down. It was just running high all day, which was why I was struggling with energy and weight gain and putting on muscle mass and waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning. And so how can we manipulate cortisol? Because that's step number 1, like I mentioned. So number 1, fuel availability, chronic under-eating, lots of dieting. So if you're in a fat loss phase for too long, and this means like just continuing to drop calories or staying low calorie for more than 3 months, that's going to elevate your cortisol. If we're consistently, that consistent calorie intake is going to lower that stress signal if we're eating enough and it's consistent. So this is also where people are, they're one day eating 1,400 calories and on the weekend they're eating like 2,200 and then we're back down to 16, that up and down, up and down. It's very stressful on our body. Our body loves routine. Just like a toddler thrives in routine, so does our body. We are like little toddlers inside. And so by eating consistently and eating enough, it lowers that cortisol. And now we see those fat burning pathways open up. This is where we see the changes that we made in our coaching program. We're giving clients these meal plan protocols that are customized to them. And it is targeting cortisol specifically and inflammation and your detoxification. We're seeing we don't have to adjust your calories at all. We just need that consistency and decreasing stress with the types of foods that we're eating to open up those fat burning pathways. And then boom, we're seeing women lose up to 7-10 pounds in less than 4 weeks, which is incredible. Which we're also doing in our 6-week program coming up. So if you want details on that, head to the show notes. The other thing that helps with cortisol is carbohydrate timing. Carbs lower cortisol. So when we are being strategic about carbohydrates, it helps reduce that stress signaling. It's especially important in the evening for sleep and recovery. So what we find is if we are having carbohydrates, we just want to make sure that we are having them after we've had some protein or veggies in our meal. Protein and veggies help slow down digestion. Blood sugars don't spike as much. So if you're having pasta, have some salad beforehand. If you're having a sandwich, have some veggies and dip beforehand. Just ask yourself, how can I have some veggies or protein before I have my carbs? Make it super simple. And it doesn't mean you have to eat all of it before your carbs, just some before you have your carbohydrates. Having carbohydrates before bed can help with your sleep immensely, but you have to pair it appropriately. We find fruit before bed typically isn't the best option, as it can affect some people more so than others. What we want to look at is something with more fiber to it. So for example, oatmeal with some protein powder, or some Greek yogurt with a little bit of granola, or we're looking at whole grain toast with some peanut butter. I love doing popcorn with a piece of cheese. So pairing a high fiber carb with a protein or a fat to help slow digestion, that's going to stabilize your blood sugars throughout the night, lower your cortisol so you're able to sleep and you're not waking up between 1 and 3 a.m. anymore. And we know that poor night's sleep, just one poor night's sleep, can increase your insulin resistance by up to 25% the following day. So the food that you ate yesterday that stabilized your blood sugar today is not stabilizing your blood sugar. And when we have more insulin resistance, our body favors fat storage. We also know that with your hunger hormones, you're going to have your hunger hormone ghrelin come up more easily, so cravings are more intense. Leptin decreases, which is the hormone that keeps you full, but it's also the hormone that tells you to burn fat. So now again, we're favoring fat storage again because of that poor sleep. Cortisol is one of the most important things that you can do to support your sleep to help with your fat loss journey. The next thing when we're looking at cortisol is your exercise selection. Too much high intensity interval training, the boot camps, the CrossFits, the Orange Theories, the slow, like the ones that don't have rest periods, like you're always go, 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 go. Those keep cortisol elevated. They also are not great at building muscle either. And so we want to make sure that we are focusing on resistance training and walking to lower that baseline cortisol over time. So for a lot of women that we work with, they love their cycling and their marathon running and all those things, which is fantastic. But we typically have to pull back for a month or two and then slowly increase it, making sure that your body can actually handle that stress, because for a lot of women, it is actually too much. And so we have to address your system, allow it time to heal before adding in those things that you love again. Doesn't mean you have to give them up forever. It's just a temporary thing so that you can get back to doing what you want better, and it's actually supporting your health now. And there's daily recovery rituals that you can incorporate too, which are wildly underrated. Deep breathing. Anything that slows down your heart rate and your breathing rate, lowering your blood pressure, is going to pull you out of that fight or flight state to lower cortisol. And so deep breathing, laying on the floor with your feet up on the wall, doing nervous system downregulation, humming, spending time in nature. For me, it's my Bible and doing a devotional, spending time in prayer. It can look different for everybody. It could even be doing a cross stitching, right? Or crocheting, knitting, whatever that looks like for you to lower your heart rate, lower your breathing rate. If there's creativity in that, that'll also help. So actively calming down your nervous system. These are not really optional in this time of our life. And it's tough because I feel like when we're in perimenopause, menopause, we're in our mid-30s, 40s, 50s, there's more demand on us than there was before. And so not taking the time to adequately recover is not optional. It will make it incredibly hard for you to be able to get to where you want to be if we aren't taking time to slow down our heart rate, slow down our breathing rate. If cortisol is not addressed first, other hormone interventions are quite challenging because cortisol influences your sex hormones particularly and your blood sugar so much. Like we see changes in women's blood sugar on their CGM trackers, those trackers that go on your arm that measure your interstitial blood sugar. And what we see is a night of poor sleep or a day of high stress influences blood sugar more than the actual foods that they were eating, which is crazy. And so this is where really understanding what are the things that are the biggest bang for your buck. This is one of those things. The next one is insulin. This is the gatekeeper of fat burning because you cannot burn fat if insulin is always elevated. And insulin will always be elevated if your stress is high because as long as cortisol is high, it's telling your body we need more energy. It's dumping sugar into your bloodstream. Insulin stays up. Insulin is not a carb problem. What we see is removing the carbs doesn't fix this. Because the carbs are not the issue. It's how your body utilizes the carbohydrates and energy that it's receiving that's the problem. And so when you take carbs out, it doesn't change how your body functions. We need to address the root issue, which is how can I make my body better at taking the energy that I'm consuming and moving it into muscle cells and the areas that my body actually needs it instead of storing it as fat. That's the root problem. And cortisol, again, plays a massive role in this. And so we also know the other thing with perimenopause and menopause and insulin resistance is it does go up. And this is because estrogen starts to fluctuate and decrease when estrogen starts to come down and become more insulin resistant. Because estrogen plays a role in helping move our blood sugars around and makes our cells more responsive. We also know we see a loss of muscle during this time of our life. And muscle mass is just like a giant parking garage for your carbs to sit in. And so if that parking garage gets smaller and smaller and smaller, we have a lower capacity of carbs and the cars, right, which are carbs for places to go. And so it's more likely they'll get stored as fat. And this is why maintaining muscle mass is so important during perimenopause and menopause. And so when our insulin stays high from stress, from low muscle mass, from hormonal fluctuations, from not enough sleep, not eating the best foods, high inflammation, what we see is your fat can't be accessed, especially if cortisol and insulin are present together, because insulin pushes you into a fat storing state. And when it's paired with cortisol, it also not only shuttles food into fat cells and makes it so your body can't burn fat. And so now we see fat accumulates quicker. We see cravings start to increase because of those unstable blood sugars, and the energy crashes and the brain fog become even more and more common. And so how can we manipulate our insulin? Number one, all the things that we talked about with cortisol will help support your blood sugar. That's number one. So everything we talked about before, you can go back and listen to that again. Number two, protein at every single meal. This helps stabilize your blood sugar, keep you full longer, decreases the chances of cortisol spiking because you're going to have consistent energy in your system, which is what we want. And again, that order of eating, making sure that we're having some protein or veggies first before dipping into our carbohydrates. That consistent intake, again, skipping meals makes your insulin dysregulation worse. It fluctuates way more. The cravings get wild. We give into the foods that we are trying so hard not to dip into. And so consistent calorie intake and making sure we're having meals every 4 to 5 hours apart, key here. And then, of course, building muscle. More muscle, more parking spots for carbs to go, less likely to store as fat. And so this is where we need to focus on an intentional muscle building routine, progressively overloading, following the same program for 4 to 6 weeks. The workout doesn't change. Every Monday looks the same. Wednesday looks different than Monday, but every Wednesday looks the same. And every week we're trying to get stronger. If you can lift 2 above what the rep range says, so maybe it says 10 to 12. If you could do 14, the weight is too light or you're moving too quickly. Slow down the movement or up the weight to make it more challenging so you can't do 2 above. That's how you send a muscle building signal. The muscle building signal in perimenopause and menopause decreases drastically, and our muscle breakdown signal goes up. And so what we used to get away with to maintain is now not enough anymore. And so your default is to lose muscle. This is why you have to do the resistance training. It's a non-negotiable in this time in your life. Then we have thyroid. Our thyroid is the energy amplifier. The thyroid does not decide to slow down randomly. It is going to respond to energy availability, your stress levels, again, so cortisol, inflammation, and your liver function. And so this is because we talked about that T3. That's the key that goes in the lock to turn on fat burning. We know that low T3 is incredibly common in perimenopause and menopause, and that tells your body to conserve energy. If reverse T3 is high as well, it's a double whammy. So whatever T3 you do have can't do its job because all the locks are sealed and you can't access them. And the reason that low energy is such an issue here is that your body goes, oh, this is a stress. The reverse T3 goes up. But your body goes, we don't have enough coming in, so we need to conserve. So it's almost like when your phone gets put on battery saving mode, it starts, the energy is low there, right? We don't have enough food coming in. And so it starts turning off all unnecessary things, all the background apps, all the things, and any energy that it does get in, if you plug it in for a couple of minutes, it conserves it as much as possible. Our body is very much the same in terms of how the thyroid works. So again, this is not a eat less, move more problem. This is a what is your body doing with the calories that you're consuming? Stress levels, we need to get that under control. Inflammation slows down the conversion of T4 to T3. So T4 is like you're waiting for this check to clear from the bank, and it's taking like 5 days. So it's there, we're waiting, there's a hole on it, but we can't actually use that money. T3 is like usable cash that we can use to buy those keys, put the keys into the lock, and turn them for fat burning. And so we need to be able to take the earnings that are on hold and turn them into usable cash. Inflammation and poor liver function, liver detoxification, makes it so that T4 takes even longer, if at all, to turn into T3. And so it's like you have all of this stuff that's just sitting in holds and you can't access it. And so we need to make sure that conversion is there, that our body can actually turn it into something that we can use. And so we know that this starts to happen, this poor conversion and low T3 happens when calories they're stored and not burned. Our energy starts to drop because our body isn't taking food and turning it into fuel. And exercise is going to feel harder and you're going to get worse results from it as well. So it's like you're busting your butt and seeing no changes. And so how can we help support that T4 to T3 conversion and keep that reverse T3, that blocker, low so that it's not interfering? 1, adequate carbohydrates. Carbs are required to convert T4 to T3 to turn the lock in the key and turn on fat burning, telling your body, okay, we can burn fat. Low carb diets suppress thyroid output. It decreases the amount of thyroid hormone your body has. Low carb diets. This is why we see so many women with thyroid issues now, because yes, the risk increases during perimenopause and menopause, but it gets worse when we do low carb. We want to reduce inflammation because like I mentioned, we have that, it's going to block that conversion of T4 to T3. And so we need to make sure that your gut is functioning properly, that your liver health is functioning properly. Both of those things, very hard to improve if blood sugar is not good and if our cortisol is high. So again, this is why we're looking at things in a specific order. And cortisol itself just blocks thyroid conversion as well. And so the thyroid will only burn calories when your body isn't in this like low battery save mode. But if we're stressed, we're under eating, we're not having enough carbohydrates, our blood sugar is unstable because we're inconsistent in calorie intake, order of eating of our foods, we're not having, some veggies and protein first before dipping into our carbs. All those things contribute. Poor sleep, your body goes into that low power saving mode. So your body is going to conserve everything that's coming in. So again, this isn't an eat less, move more thing. This is what is your body doing with the calories that you're consuming? That's the problem. So we want to be able to support thyroid through those aspects. And then we have progesterone. Progesterone is like a nice stability hormone. Everyone thinks it's just about cycles and fertility, but it's not, because it's going to have an impact on your blood sugar control, your sleep quality, your anxiety levels, your insulin sensitivity. And low progesterone in perimenopause can lead to that poor sleep, that higher cravings that you experience, your body not as great at burning calories. And so how can we support progesterone to, support fat loss, especially when we're in a time of our life where it starts to decrease? But we want to slow down how quickly it decreases, first of all. And number one is lowering cortisol, because your stress, cortisol, is going to take the resources your body needs to produce progesterone and shuttle it towards cortisol. And so by decreasing stress, you're improving your blood sugar, you are improving your thyroid function, you're improving your progesterone production. Protecting your sleep is also key, because progesterone is supported during deep sleep. So we need good quality sleep. And micronutrient sufficiency. So we know that if you are lacking in magnesium or B vitamins, it can be really detrimental to your progesterone pathway. So taking like a vitamin B50 in the morning, because it does increase energy. So if you take it in the evening, likelihood that you're going to struggle with your sleep. And then taking like 400 milligrams of magnesium before bed, some of the best things that you can take. I'm not huge on supplements, but there's a couple really basic ones that do wonders for your body that are affordable, and those are two of them. And then the last one is estrogen, which is a modulator, not the enemy, because estrogen gets targeted as like this huge issue as to why everything is falling apart. But she's not really understood, because the thing is, estrogen affects every system in our body. She supports our insulin sensitivity, so our blood sugar control, fat distribution, maintaining muscle mass, inflammation, and just how everything in our body works, stress reduction. And so the problem isn't that estrogen's decreasing, it's that she is picking up the slack for a lot of things that we were just getting away with before. She's like mom. Maybe mom is the one who gets the kids up in the morning, does the grocery shopping, make sure the kids get to school on time, packs their lunches, takes them to all their sports, is also making sure bills are paid, keeps the house clean, does the laundry, is also working to be a really great wife, all these things. And, she's running the household really well, but she's also making up for a lot of people who are, maybe not putting in their work. And so if mom gets sick, all of a sudden the house is a mess. The dishes pile up, the laundry piles up, there's no food in the fridge. Like, it's just a disaster. Kids are late for things. It's a whole thing. And so is it estrogen's fault, or is it the whole system, the whole household wasn't working cohesively and doing their fair share? That's pretty much what happens. We aren't aware of how much she is doing until she starts to fluctuate. And so what we see is inflammation starts to increase, which blocks fat burning. We see that we have more water retention, more bloating, struggle to put on that muscle mass. Metabolism starts to slow down. Blood sugar gets worse. And so how can we support estrogen, even though that she's like some days high, some days low? The goal is to make the highs less high and the lows less low. Like, make this, instead of like a Six Flags crazy roller coaster with the upside downs and all the crazy things, to, just like a little kiddie train ride where there's not too many bumps in the road. Like, it feels pretty good. It feels safe. It's nice, right? So we want to make sure that we are addressing our gut health, because if we are not eliminating daily, we're going to see more inflammation. It's going to take a toll on our liver. Toxins recycle, estrogens recycle, which can be even more pro-inflammatory, and we don't want that. And so we want to make sure that we are having daily bowel movements every single day. If you're not going to the bathroom every single day, we have issues that we need to address. We need to support your liver. Huge role in inflammation and estrogen detoxification and getting those proper levels in. And so this is where we want to make sure we're having enough protein. Low protein isn't just detrimental to blood sugar and to muscle mass. Your body legitimately cannot detox and make the neurotransmitters that make you happy and motivated if you don't have enough protein. So getting enough protein in your diet, key. Getting enough greens in your diet, cruciferous veggies, phytoestrogens. Those are all essential for supporting your liver and the functions and making sure estrogen is in a better place. And then just reducing your toxic load in general, because What happens is when we're exposed to lots of chemicals like BPAs, things in skincare, our water, all those kinds of things can bind to estrogen receptors and have you have more symptoms like estrogen dominance or decreasing your actual estrogen load and all these things as your body thinks you're getting enough, which is not great. And so we need to make sure that we are doing those things. But again, as long as, your stress is really high, blood sugar and thyroid are in a good place, you can take the HRT and things like that to support your estrogen and progesterone. However, the underlying cause is still happening. And so without addressing the root cause, you could still end up with diabetes. You can still never lose weight. You can still be exhausted. You can still have the cravings. So you can have some symptoms that improve that can maybe make it easier to, do the things, but it's not going to fix the underlying issues of your liver, the inflammation, the cortisol, the thyroid, all of those things. And so when we're looking at all of this together, there is a sequence that we address things in coaching. And cortisol, insulin, and inflammation are the first things that we do in our protocols with clients because it really allows your body to flush things out. The liver gets flushed out. We're seeing massive changes in the inflammation, the bloating, the scale weight. People feel good. The energy comes back and, their body starts functioning better. And now their hormonal symptoms are improving without actually targeting hormones specifically because we are changing the environment that the hormones respond to. And so we're putting in the right inputs. That way your hormones do the right things so that you actually feel good and can actually lose weight again. And so we need to respect this order in terms of understanding what affects what. It's the whole chicken or the egg thing. And we have to keep digging deeper, digging deeper, asking why to make these customized protocols for you. And so there's lots of things that we listed here today that you can start doing on your own. But the big thing is sometimes you just need to understand what's the most important thing. How long do I do that for? When? What order? And then what's next? And so it's not about forcing the weight loss per se, even though it can kind of sound like it. It's about removing the blocks that are preventing it from happening. And so again, if your fat burning pathway is blocked and that storage pathway is overactive, your body is constantly being told, we have enough, let's store. Even though you're eating less, you're moving more, you're doing everything right. Once you manipulate the signals, your hormones will respond appropriately and fat loss becomes possible again. And that is exactly what we are doing in our 6-week program. It is the first phase of our one-to-one coaching program. So you get to go through all the protocols, experience those changes, those feelings, getting your body to respond again. If you want details on that, and if there's still spots left, you can head to the show notes. And as always, make sure you share with friends, subscribe wherever you're listening to, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.